This incident occurred when I was 25 years old. I was driving from North to South Texas during the late hours of the night due to my work schedule. Most of the drive took place on Route 281, which was a straightforward route. However, staying awake was a challenge as I was already exhausted from work. Starting the drive immediately after work was brutal, and to keep myself going, I had to make frequent stops at random gas stations for coffee. On this particular occasion, I was feeling sleepy for the third time, and I also needed to refuel my tank. I pulled into the first gas station I could find on the desolate side roads, although I couldn't recall the exact brand of the gas station, perhaps as Sunoco or Shell. There was only one other car in the parking lot, so I parked my car next to one of the pumps and entered the shop. Inside, there were two people, the cashier and another person who was pacing down the aisles. I went to the coffee maker, poured myself a cup, and that's when the guy who had been pacing approached me. He made a pointless and creepy attempt at starting a conversation, warning me about the hot coffee before leaving. I chose not to engage in the conversation as I wasn't in the mood. Without responding, I paid for the coffee and gas at the cashier's counter. While I was paying, the guy came up behind me and complimented the top I was wearing, asking where I was heading so late at night. By this point, I was extremely annoyed and firmly asked him to leave me alone. The cashier, a middle-aged Hispanic man, seemed uncertain about how much English he understood and appeared oblivious to the situation unfolding before him. Given his smaller stature, it was unlikely that he would intervene. Ignoring the guy's comment, I left the shop without uttering another word and made my way back to my car. As I stood next to my car, preparing to fill up the tank, I noticed the sound of the door opening again a few seconds after I had left the shop. Glancing over, I saw the same guy creepily standing on the other side of the pump I was using. He wasn't refueling his car. In fact, there wasn't even a car on that side. Feeling uneasy, I contemplated retrieving my pepper spray from the center console. Sensing my discomfort, the guy asked, "Are you alone?" His question intensified the gravity of the situation. Attempting to diffuse the tension, I replied, "No, my boyfriend is in the car." I opened the car door and discreetly retrieved the pepper spray, holding it by my side while pretending to focus on pumping gas. The guy started moving around the gas pump, inching closer to my side, and remarked, "I don't see anyone in the car." Reacting swiftly, I aimed the pepper spray at him, causing him to laugh and back away. He claimed he was merely trying to make conversation, but he continued to walk backward while keeping his attention fixed on me. As I finished pumping gas, I suddenly heard a clang and the flow of gas stopped. Realizing that my tank was full, I had to retrieve the change I was owed, which amounted to around $6. However, the man was standing between the shop and me, forcing me to make a decision. Despite still pointing the pepper spray can at him, I chose to collect my change. With my arm raised, I kept a watchful eye on him, and he continued to retreat, chuckling. Once I had my change, I glanced through the glass door into the parking lot before leaving. I didn't see the man anywhere, but I was afraid he might be hiding. Cautiously, I stepped outside but remained on the sidewalk, surveying my surroundings. The man had vanished from sight, indicating that he was most likely hiding. Eventually, a pickup truck pulled into the parking lot and parked next to one of the pumps. The driver, a large man with a beard, caught my attention, and I approached him, seeking assistance. I asked him to check if there was a man hiding behind my car. Although confused, he agreed to help and walked to the other side of my car. Suddenly, he shouted, "What are you doing?" And the creepy man hastily retreated from behind my car, running into the darkness surrounding the gas station. The helpful stranger emphasized the importance of being careful and warned me to stay safe in his thick Southern accent. Feeling grateful, I quickly left the parking lot and continued the remainder of my drive. It was evident that the creepy man had been waiting for an opportunity to take advantage of me as soon as I unlocked my car doors. This realization deeply disturbed me, and I couldn't shake off the unsettling experience. During the mid-60s in the Atlanta area, an incident occurred that left a lasting impression on me. At the time, I was around 8 or 9 years old, and my father worked as a school teacher in a suburb quite far from our home. Since I attended the same school where he taught, I had the privilege of riding with him every day. However, this meant waking up before sunrise, as we had to make an early start. As part of our routine, we would often stop at a small independent gas station, which was one of the first to open in the mornings. During those days, gas stations provided full service, and they had attendants who would come out to fill your tank, clean your windows, and take care of other tasks. I vividly remember the attendant carrying a stack of bills in his pocket and a coin-counting device attached to his belt. Behind the gas pumps, there were small restrooms, and given the long drive, I would frequently use the bathroom whenever we stopped at this particular station. One morning before dawn, we arrived as usual, only to find the gas station completely deserted. It was eerily quiet, with only the sounds of passing traffic breaking the silence. There was no sign of the attendant, either in the booth or anywhere else around the station. My father honked the car horn a few times, hoping to get some attention, but there was no response. We speculated about what could be causing the absence, and initially, my father suggested that perhaps the attendant was in the restroom. However, when he failed to appear, my father theorized that he might have encountered car trouble and couldn't make it to work on time. We waited for several minutes, but no other cars pulled in. I expressed my need to use the bathroom, but my father, realizing we couldn't wait any longer, assured me that I could use the facilities at the next station we encountered. We left the deserted gas station, still puzzled about what had occurred. A day or two later, my father came across a startling article in the local newspaper. With a mix of shock and excitement, he shared the news with my mother and me. The body of a gas station attendant had been discovered in the men's restroom of the very same station we used to frequent. According to the article, the attendant had been brutally stabbed multiple times. The motive appeared to be robbery, as all the cash and coins were missing. Although it was early in the morning, the amount stolen was probably not significant. The article didn't disclose the exact sum, but regardless, it was clear that the value of the money didn't deter the killer. Reflecting on this incident, I often wonder how profoundly it would have affected me at such a tender age if I had insisted on using the bathroom at that gas station and opened the door to witness the horrific sight of the murdered attendant. Needless to say, we never returned to that gas station again. In my younger years, my friends and I would often engage in late-night drives for no particular reason. We thought it was cool to stay out until the early hours of the morning, hanging out at parks or in parking lots. Looking back, I realize it was a foolish and unproductive use of time, but it did expose me to driving during off-peak hours when intoxicated or unpredictable individuals were more likely to be on the roads. One weekend night, around 4 in the morning, after dropping off a friend at their house, I needed to stop for gas before heading home. I preferred getting gas at night, since there were usually no other cars around to impede the process. I pulled into one of my regular gas stations, conveniently located not far from my parents' house. As I walked towards the building to make the payment, a short hooded guy passed by me. He suddenly halted and fixed his gaze on me. Curious and slightly wary, I asked him what was going on, but he remained silent. Dismissing him as a typical sketchy individual, I continued walking towards the building. Inside, I paid the attendant for the gas and decided to purchase a lottery ticket while I was there. After completing the transaction, I stepped outside and began filling up my tank. Glancing around, I confirmed that the area was deserted, as expected at such an hour. With the task almost done, I returned to my car and embarked on the journey home. However, halfway through the drive, I heard a noise from behind me in the car. I instinctively glanced at the rearview mirror and was horrified to see a stranger in the back seat, staring back at me. Overwhelmed by fear, I let out an ear-piercing scream, almost collapsing my lungs. Reacting swiftly, I slammed on the brakes and screamed at the intruder to get out. In a panic, I flung open the car doors and cried out for help, knowing that a few people from nearby houses would respond. True enough, several porch lights flickered on, and doors swung open as concerned neighbors emerged. The man hastily exited my car, uttering a threat about slitting my throat before fleeing down the street. I chose not to pursue him. Instead, I focused on the people who had come to my aid. They reassured me and inquired about my well-being. I recounted the unsettling incident, emphasizing that a stranger had invaded my backseat. By this time, the culprit had vanished from sight, and I had no intention of searching for him. Expressing gratitude to the kind individuals who had intervened, I resumed my journey home, ensuring I didn't spot him anywhere for the remainder of the drive. Without a doubt, that encounter stands as the most terrifying experience of my life. Due to financial constraints and the need for a second job, I took up the night shift at a gas station. For a few months, I consistently worked during the late hours. However, around my second or third month, a peculiar man became a regular customer. He would always arrive around 2 a.m., standing at about 6 feet tall with long, unkempt hair. Each time, he would purchase a tall boy of alcohol and quickly leave. After some time, he finally asked for my name, and upon hearing it, he kept repeating Rob with a laugh, finding amusement in the rhyme. He cracked open his purchase, walked out of the store, and engaged in a conversation with himself, clearly intoxicated. This particular night sparked my curiosity about his condition while driving, as he never once bought gas during his visits. Every time he left, I observed him until he disappeared from the gas station property. It seemed logical that he never bought gas since he was always inebriated. I witnessed him coming in almost every night thereafter. Some nights, he was noticeably more intoxicated than others, while on some occasions, he would silently lean against a shelf for some time without uttering a word. Nevertheless, he would always greet me with a casual "Hey, Rod" upon entering. One evening, he leaned against a shelf, silently drinking the tall boy he had just purchased, his gaze fixed on a wall. Intrigued, I mustered the courage to ask for his name. After a brief pause of about 5 seconds, he looked at me and mumbled Bob. I had always assumed Bob to be a common pseudonym used when someone wished to conceal their true identity. I wondered if he chose that name because it rhymed with mine. However, I decided to go along with it and asked where he worked. To my surprise, he burst into an unexpectedly loud laughter, claiming he was unemployed because the government had completely messed up his job. He appeared angry but also expressed a strange liking for me, saying that I seemed capable. Perplexed by his statement, I watched him leave the store shortly after. He disappeared for quite some time, more than a week, which was unusual considering his regular visits. Bob always gave off an unsettling and slightly creepy vibe, and it was evident that something was amiss in his personal life. Then, one stormy night with fewer customers due to the inclement weather, I heard the chime of the front door as someone entered. Strangely enough, even before looking up, I had a premonition that it was Bob. To my astonishment, it was indeed him, but he appeared much more frightening than ever before. He was drenched, not wearing any rain gear or carrying an umbrella, just standing by the door, staring intently at the wall. He seemed angry, yet his mind appeared elsewhere, lost in his thoughts. His soaking wet appearance, coupled with his blank expression, sent chills down my spine. Concerned, I called out to him, asking if he was okay. However, he did not turn his head or make any movement. He remained rooted in place and uttered, "I did something really bad." Naturally, I inquired about his actions, but he looked at me, his gaze piercing, and replied that he needed somewhere to hide. He then walked past me, heading towards the restroom hallway. He disappeared behind the wall, and I could hear one of the doors open and close. At this point, I felt extremely uncomfortable with Bob's presence. I never enjoyed his company in the store, and tonight, things were exceptionally off. He resembled a zombie, and his unsettling comment about doing something terrible only heightened my unease. Some time passed, and Bob never emerged from the bathroom. I assumed he had succumbed to his inebriation, either passed out or vomiting. Regardless, I chose not to intervene. Suddenly, the lights in the store went out, engulfing everything in darkness. I found myself standing in a pitch-black gas station during a severe storm, accompanied by an unstable, intoxicated man. Retrieving a flashlight from behind the counter, I cautiously made my way towards the back of the store, where the inventory storage and panel board were located. The door leading to the back was situated in the same hallway as the restrooms. As I passed by the slightly ajar doors, neither of them revealed Bob's presence. Stepping through the door to the back, intending to reach the panel board, I froze upon hearing faint dripping sounds and the squeaking of wet shoes. Fear gripped me as I called out Bob's name in a weak and frightened voice. To my horror, squeaks emanated from my left side. As I pointed my flashlight towards that corner, I saw Bob's wide-open eyes, lunging at me and screaming, "I'm going to kill you." Instinctively, I pushed him away as he clawed at my back. I sprinted back through the front door, and he did not pursue me. Hastily grabbing my rain jacket, I raced to my car, dialing 911 as I sought assistance. I stayed on the line with the operator, and soon, a couple of police officers arrived and entered the store with me. They found Bob hiding in the back room, huddled in a corner like some deranged creature, his dilated pupils indicating he was under the influence of a substance. After I informed them about his assault and threats, as well as his admission of having done something terrible, they took him to the police station. It was only over a month later that I discovered Bob's true identity was Martin, a man who had brutally murdered his ex-wife. The incident likely occurred on the same night he visited the gas station. In short, this harrowing experience left me with an aversion to night shifts and a lasting reluctance to engage in any job that required working during those hours.